I have a confession to make. I say I like Stardew Valley, but really I've never even completed the community center. But that changes today, because I'm setting out to get every Steam achievement in Stardew Valley. And this is my first 100 days. Really, it's 112, but who's really counting? For this video, my goals are to 1. Max the 5 skills in the game, those being farming, fishing, foraging, combat, and mining. 2. Complete the community center, and if possible reach Ginger Island. 3. Set up some solid way of making some money, as we are going to need a lot of it. Like this one clock costs 10 million gold, and we're going to have to buy it on top of many more things. But enough yapping, let's just get into it. On my first day in the valley, after dropping out of the soul-sucking rat race of the corporate world to live my drippy deceased grandfather's dream, I did what every good farmer does and planted my starting parsnips. I then started making my rounds and talking to the various people throughout town, as that was the first quest that I was given. During said rounds, I stopped by the town merchant Pierre and picked up some various seeds needed for the community center and planted them once I got home to the farm. The rest of the day was spent training foraging, whether that be through finding forageables or chopping trees to make space on our plot. And when we went to sleep that night, we were rewarded with our first of many skill levels, granting us level 1 foraging. Willie sent me a letter to come down to his house in the dock in day 2. So after watering my crops, I picked up a fetch quest from Evelyn for a seaweed and headed down to the docks. Side note on these fetch quests, there is an achievement to do 10 of these as well as another one to do 40, so I'll be doing as many of these as I can in the background. We got our fishing pole from Willie and finished introducing ourselves around town before settling down by the ocean to get and deliver the aforementioned seaweed for our first fetch quest completion. The night, like the previous, was spent clearing more debris on the farm in an effort to clean things up a bit. Day 3 brought rain, so that meant we could head straight out the door without watering our crops. And because of that rain, I decided to sit down by the river and see if I could land myself some catfish, as they are really good money, especially early on like this. Unfortunately though, with level 1 fishing, they were few and far between, and also really fucking hard to catch, so I ended up only getting 1, but I got some fishing XP out of this, resulting in a level up that night. I should note catching every fish in the game is another achievement that I'll have to get eventually, as well as it's part of getting perfection and also an achievement in itself, so we'll have to get comfortable with this god forbidden minigame, as we will spend many hours partaking in it. Day 4 was spent much the same, but down to the ocean this time. I did get our first achievement though in the form of fisherman after I caught 10 different types of fish. I also started saving some of my fish, as if you didn't know, at level 5 and level 10 in a skill you get to choose these special professions, and I plan to take the one for fishing that would raise the sell price of my fish, so it made more sense to just hold on to them. I got 2 fishing levels that night, bringing me up to level 3. On day 5, Marnie showed up with a cat named after the best Harry Potter character, and I adopted him. We also had our first harvest, and then returned back to Pierre's to sell our parsnips and restock on an assortment of seeds to replant. After hoeing around a bit and watering my new crops, I met Marlin in the mines and decided to give it a go. I ended up making it down to floor 8. It's pretty pitiful, I know, before scurrying home for the night. I got a bunch of levels that night though, getting level 1 farming, level 2 foraging, and level 1 mining. On day 6, another unsuspecting visitor dropped by in the form of Clint to give me the recipe to make a furnace, and since it was raining and I was broke and I had a quest from Willie for it, I spent the day at the river noodling for catfish, and was a lot more successful this time. I ended up selling that day's catch for a much needed 2475 gold, on top of another fishing level, bringing me up to level 4. I know I said I was going to hold on to the fish and all that, but to be honest, I just wanted to see some sweet returns after this hard fought day on the bayou. On day 7, I met Lewis over at the community center, which was a big deal, as completing the bundles house with them would be my main focus for quite some time. He also showed me a prize ticket machine in his house that I could put my tickets in that I earned for helping out around the town in exchange for various prizes. Look, I know he's the mayor and all, but isn't it a bit strange to have this inside of your house? I stopped by Gunther at the museum as I had a couple of things to donate and dropped them off there. Speaking of the museum, this is another thing that we must complete in its entirety, and that in itself is probably going to be soul crushing. I was getting tired of only being able to hold like 9 beans, so I stopped by Pierre's and picked up the first backpack upgrade before going back to the mines and making it down to floor 10 for some new shoes, baby. Lastly, I stopped by the community center to check it out and then basically just wandered for the rest of the day, trying to find Clint to give him some ore for my first prize ticket, which gave me some carrot seeds. On the morning of day 8, I awoke to some blessed cookies from Mom, and a letter from some guy claiming to be a wizard, asking me to come visit him in the forest. So I did just that. Before making my way back to the mines to get down to level 15, Look, I swear I get better at this in the future. I don't know why I was progressing so badly in the beginning, but I honestly didn't even remember much about the luck aspect of this game yet, and I wasn't even checking it at this point, so that probably has something to do with it. The night was spent clearing more trash around the farm, and I ended up getting level 1 combat and level 2 mining, which I didn't record unfortunately. Day 9 was another fishing day, but this time up at the mountain lake instead, and I ended up earning my second achievement for catching 100 fish. After all that fishing that night, I got level 5 fishing, and finally got to choose my first skill profession, opting for fisher, which increases my sell price of fish by 25%. I awoke on day 10 to a corvid taking my carrot, but harvesting the rest of them got me another farming level, unlocking basic sprinklers, which will come in really handy in the future. I then went and hunted down Vincent to give him a dandelion for his birthday, as friendship is something that is also required for my goals. If you didn't know, most every NPC with the exception of some in this game have a heart rating that evaluates their current relationship with the player, and we will have to max these out for every character in order to reach perfection. The most efficient way of doing this, I believe, is to give them items on their birthday, as there is like a 5 times multiplier or something, so we really need to gift on birthdays as much as we can. The rest of the day was spent chopping wood on the farm, which got me level 3 foraging that night. Day 11 started with the potato plucking, and then I retrieved and returned Robin's lost axe, and since I was already up there, I hit the mines, making it to floor 17 before almost dying. I can't believe I'm almost dying on floor 17. Yeah, the mines definitely aren't my strong suit at this point, but this did however get me another level in mining that night, bringing me up to level 2. Day 12 brought the rain, so you know what that means. We went noodling at the river, baby. I managed to catch 12 catfish in this day, and sold most of them that night, getting me the achievement for earning 15k gold, as well as level 6 fishing, which was massive. On my 13th day in the valley, I wanted to go to the community center, but Dudley was blocking my way, and then I tried to go around but realized that the egg festival was today, so I actually just couldn't go there. I did, however, end up attending the festival, purchasing 80 strawberry seeds, and competed in the egg hunt, which I definitely didn't lose first try, and then reset the day to ensure that I got the win so I could get that juicy 1,000 gold and this sick straw hat. At the end of 2 weeks, I started planting those strawberries I bought, and then while planting them I realized I should probably set them up for sprinklers, resulting in this odd layout. Upon getting into town I realized it was Haley's birthday, so I brought her a dandelion, and then completed my first community center bundle, that being the spring foraging bundle. I replanted the spring seeds that I got as a reward, and then spent the rest of the day attempting to organize my chest. I need to hold on to a lot of things for this run, so it'll definitely help me to be as organized as possible, but I can assure you that I am almost never organized. Thankfully, spring 15th was a rainy day, meaning that I didn't have to water my abysmal number of crops manually, so instead I made my way to the mines, and finally managed to make some halfway decent progress, getting down to floor 30. Along the way I picked up 2 different rings and a wooden club for a weapon upgrade, as well as a combat level. My main focus for going to the mines at this point was to get resources to make sprinklers, as I really don't want to water all my crops by hand going forward, as it takes so much time and energy. Also, salmonberry season started today. The next couple of days I was having to water all my crops, and this was using up pretty much all of my energy right away, so I spent the remainder of day 16 foraging for salmon berries, as well as dropping off some items at the community center, completing the spring crops bundle, and then dropping off some random fish that I had on me. I also stopped by the museum to donate what I had up to this point, giving me a starfruit seed. Luckily, on the 17th I had a stockpile of salmon berries to use to regain energy after watering, so I was able to get down to floor 45, and finally start getting some iron. These floors started to become much more tedious though, as it was taking multiple hits to break rocks now, and I realized that I really needed to get a pick upgrade soon. This foray and my small harvest in the morning got me some more levels that night though, with level 3 farming and level 3 mining coming through. With my newly acquired iron, I was able to get some basic sprinklers down on the morning of the 18th, and then it was back to the mines for more materials for sprinklers. And I managed to get down to floor 51, but I left early to go back into town, and on my way there I got my first scene with Linus as he was digging through the trash. I also stopped by the bar and bought Pam a beer for her birthday, before retiring to bed with sweet dreams and another combat level. On the Friday of the 19th, I finally stopped by the Traveling Merchant for the first time, which, if you didn't know, sells a random assortment of items every Friday and Sunday of the week, and I really need to remember to stop by here on those days, as there are some items that will save me so much time if I can just purchase them from here. But rest assured, I am a very forgetful person. I didn't end up buying anything today, but afterwards I made my way over to Jody to give her a cauliflower. In the mines, I managed to make my way down to floor 57, getting the monster compendium as a drop along the way, as well as Jack Be Nimble, Jack Be Thick on my way home. These books are also important for my goals as they unlock special powers for my character, and there's a collection of about 19 of them that I must also collect for another achievement. The real highlight of this day though was the 42 iron ore I came home with, which meant I could make me some more sprinklers. I didn't do that right away however, as day 20 I spent the majority of the day up at the mountain lake fishing for gold, so I could eventually afford a pick upgrade. But I didn't forget to stop by the bar and buy Shane a beer for his birthday, which I kinda have mixed feelings about because his whole character kinda revolves around being an alcoholic, and I'm kinda feeding his issue. I also got level 4 foraging and level 7 fishing that night, on top of a whopping 5k gold. At the end of my 3rd week, I dropped my pick off at Clint's for an upgrade, paid for with that sweet fishing money, and donated a ton that I had lying around to the museum, before I bought and planted 30 parsnips with the goal of getting my 5 golden parsnips for the quality crops bundle. This was a number that I read online that would be enough for someone most likely to get the number required, that being 5, but boy, was I way off base. That evening was spent up at the mountain lake fishing for more gold, which I managed to bring in 4k of, as well as level 4 farming. At the start of my final week of spring, Demetrius showed up in the morning to give me the choice of turning my cave into a space for fruit bats or mushrooms, and I chose the fruit bats. I do think the mushroom option is interesting, but the fruit bats have a chance to give me some items that can really save me some time in the community center bundles, so that's why I went with that. We also had our first strawberry harvest, which was fantastic. Like previous days, I spent the rest of the day at the mountain lake, and at bedtime we were greeted with our best dreams yet, as not only did we get level 5 farming, granting us the tiller profession, which gives us increased sale price to crops, but we also got level 8 fishing, and made the most money we have made yet, with 11,700 gold coming in for that day. On day 23 my pick was done, so I went and picked it up, broke open a couple geodes and dropped off my new finds to the museum, before taking it for a little test drive in the mine for the day, where we managed to reach level 60, and got level 4 mining as well. Day 24 brings another holiday, that being the Flower Festival. I spent the morning beforehand getting more sprinklers crafted and placed for the next season, and then went and attended. Unfortunately though, no one likes me enough to dance with me, but I did get to pick up the rare crow and the crafting recipe. I will also need to buy and collect all crafting recipes, as we need to craft every recipe as a step in perfection and an achievement, so we'll need to make sure to pick up the limited time ones, such as this one when we get the chance. The rare crows are also a collectible that I'll need to get all of, and most of them are bought at limited time events like this, as there's a crafting recipe that you unlock for getting all of them, so that's the reason that we're collecting those. Day 25 was another rainy day, so luckily, no water in my crops, although I did have sprinklers covering most of them now. So it was back to that bread and butter of catfishing for money. Before that though, I made a couple community center donations, as well as dropped my axe off with Clint to start upgrading that to copper. The next day I had a morning harvest that managed to get my farming up to level 6, and then it was back to the mines, where I made it to floor 70 and got level 4 combat. I also got the cowpoke achievement that night for earning 50k gold. Level 6 farming is also a pretty big deal, as it earns me the ability to make quality sprinklers, which cover much more ground than the sprinklers that I just slaved away on making. I always hate making these first sprinklers and then just immediately feeling like I need to replace them with the quality ones, but it is what it is. Saturday the 27th my axe was ready, so after picking up my axe and dropping off my pick to upgrade it to iron, cracking some more geodes and doing some museum donations, as I was right there beside it, I made my way over to Robin's to get my first building created on the farm. The coop. I also picked up a fetch quest with her for some wood and dropped that off while I was there. Then I made my way down to Emily's house to give her a topaz for her birthday before retiring back to the farm to collect more wood, as I basically used all of it to get this coop started. The final day of spring was another rainy one, so you know what that means. But before we got too deep into fishing, I wandered into Emily's house and got this very strange cutscene. Unfortunately, I was actually looking for Haley when I wandered in there, but I couldn't find her. So instead I decided to kill some time by reinvesting in my current business endeavor and going down to Willie's and purchasing the iridium rod and some dress spinners. I managed to fish up another copy of the Jewel of the Seas for some extra fishing XP. Not sure when I got the first one of this, but this unlocks the power to have a chance of receiving row of the fish that you're currently catching whenever you open a treasure chest, and it's one of the 19 books that I mentioned earlier. Once I knew Haley was out and about, I stopped by and dropped off an aquamarine for another fetch quest, earning me a prize ticket, which I immediately cashed in for an orange sapling. Then it was back to the catfish, which I caught a whopping 15 of today. Upon sleeping that night, I got notified that mystery boxes could now be found in the valley, got level 9 fishing, only one more to go, and made another 8k off my fish to end my first spring season. The first of summer was spent like the first of most seasons, where we got ready to plant our new crops for the month. I made my way over to Pierre's and bought a wide variety of seeds to get planted, the bulk of which consisted of 90 blueberry seeds. But I also got most seeds required for upcoming bundles, as well as some quality fertilizer to try to ensure I got my quality crops this season, as I completely missed the quality parsnips in spring. I then stopped by Clint's as my steel pick was ready, and I also had a couple of geodes I cracked while I was there. I took these newly acquired items to the museum to be donated, and managed to get the treasure trove achievement for donating 40 items. The rest of the day was spent planting and watering my seeds, and I managed to get most of them down, as well as start crafting my first quality sprinklers. I spent the morning of the 2nd finishing up the job of planting my crops, before making my way to the mines for the day, where I managed to get a decent weapon upgrade in the form of a bone sword, ultimately ending the day at floor 80. That night when I went to sleep, I heard an earthquake, got another mining level, and got to choose my first mining profession, and I decided to go with the one that earned me extra ore per node, as that seemed pretty useful to me. I completely didn't realize that my coop was also finished this day, so the next morning I made my way down to Marnie's to buy a bunch of chickens to fill it up. Then it was back to the mines. As you see, I really wanted to get enough gold ore to make more quality sprinklers to stop having to water my bloobs every morning. I made it down to 85, getting a bit further on the elevator, but most of the time was spent just resetting floor 80 to try to find some more gold. I also managed to pick up another weapon upgrade in the form of the Yeti Tooth. On day 32, I first dropped some things off at the community center, fully completing my first room, which was the boiler room, and I also finished off the crab pot bundle from a crab I got as a drop from the mines. I then took my wood out at the beach and fixed the bridge over the tide pools, as this unlocks a small new area with some new forageables, and I wanted one of these specifically to craft the new machine for something coming up. I completely forgot it was Jazz's birthday and forgot to gift her, and just basically spent the rest of my day up at the mountain lake where I managed to catch 2 new fish, that being the rainbow trout and the sturgeon. While I was out and about, I had left some ore smelting, so when I got home I turned these into quality sprinklers, basically finishing what I needed still before spending some time chopping wood, as I used basically all of it today. Of course, since we finished the boiler room, when we slept we were greeted with the cutscene of the Junimos fixing the minecarts, which are really helpful for getting around the valley. And we also got level 5 foraging that night, which meant we get to pick another profession. And we went with Gatherer, which gives us a chance for double harvest whenever we forage items. I decided that day 33 just felt like another fishing day, so I went down to the ocean with the aspirations of catching all the new summer ocean fish, as well as to hopefully get level 10 in fishing so I could finally max my first skill. I managed to catch basically all the new catches, that being the tilapia, tuna, flounder, pufferfish, red mullet, and super cucumber, also earning the Old Mariner achievement along the way for catching 24 different fish. I didn't however get level 10 today though, so that just meant I had to continue my fishing escapade the next day, which I did manage to get the next day up at the mountain lake, going for some sturgeon in the rain. The rest of the day was spent gathering wood and clearing space around the farm with the goal of getting enough wood to get a barn. And when it came time to choose my profession for fishing, you know I had to take angler, making my fish worth even more. Oh, and we also got an achievement for getting a skill to the max level as well. I started day 35 by going down to Willie's to drop off some fish for some much needed cash, and to use my newly acquired perk. Using that cash I made a trip up to the Robins to get a barn started, before also stopping by Clint's to upgrade my axe up to steel. I then dropped a couple things off at the community center, before going to check the traveling merchant, who was selling the red cabbage. So you know I had to buy that, as this thing just isn't attainable till year 2 if it's not, so this was absolutely huge. I spent the remainder of that day in the mines, where I made it down to floor 90, and also got a combat level, which allowed me to choose my profession, where I went with fighter, as it just gave me an overall damage boost. I also got a mining level that night as well. On day 36, I loaded up on all my useless shoes and weapons and such, and made my way over to the Adventurers Guild, before realizing it was closed until 2. I'll never understand why it opened so late, but oh well I guess. So I killed some times in Pierre's, where I picked up an apple sapling, as 3 apples are needed for the community center, and I needed to plant this sooner rather than later so I'll be ready for next season. The tide pools was my next stop, as I had my eye on the summer legendary fish, which I caught relatively fast and immediately sold for some more reinvestment capital, so I could also pick up the pomegranate sapling. I finally got to drop off my weapon junk with Marlin, planted my new saplings, and then spent the rest of the night down at the beach, fishing for money, where I also managed to pick up an iridium band, which was pretty massive as it's a really solid ring, especially early on. I also had a small harvest that morning, which managed to get me level 7 farming that night when I went to bed. I swear every time I try to go to Marnie's, it's a Tuesday, and that's exactly what I did on day 37. My axe was ready though, so I went and picked that up before putting it to use to get into the secret woods and get a fiddlehead fern for the community center, and just stock up on some general hardwood. After that, it was back to, you guessed it, the mines, and I managed to get down to floor 100 for the star drop. I spent the rest of the day running floor 70, as I was trying to get Ghost for a fetch quest from the wizard, and only managed to find a single one. Marnie was open the next day, so I stopped by that morning to buy ourselves some cows to go in our newly completed barn, as well as just stock up on some hay to feed my animals. It was Mara's birthday today, so I stopped by and gave her a gold bar to earn a little favor, before, you guessed it, back to the mines, where I managed to get down to floor 110. I pretty much wasn't paying attention to luck at all, so I think that's why my gains in the mines seemed to be so random. The governor was in town the next day for the luau, so I dropped a gold quality sturgeon I had been holding on to for a special occasion into the soup, and got the achievement for delighting him. I didn't get home till 10 PM that night, so I spent the last couple hours before bed just gathering more wood around the farm. The next day I decided I needed a place to store and a way of producing hay, so I stopped by Robin's to commission a silo, and then made it down to floor 120 in the mines, or the last and lowest level, and got an achievement for doing so, as well as the skull key. I wonder what that's used for. I realized I should probably get some tappers down soon, as we will definitely be needing lots of resin in the late game, but I was running low on copper, so I just basically farmed level 20 in the mines to hopefully get some before making my way back home to plant some trees that would eventually get tapped. I also got a combat level that night, bringing me up to level 6. On day 41, I had a melon harvest, which I unfortunately didn't record, but the real highlight was getting the 5 quality ones that I needed for the quality crops bundle. I took those and some other things over to the community center, finishing the summer foraging bundle. Then it was off to Clint's for standard geo/donation duo. It was Alex's birthday, so after hunting him down and waiting for him to finish his lift, I gave him a field snack. I started to farm floor 20 again for copper, but 21 ended up being infested today, so I ended up killing a couple bugs and got the monster hunter goal for bugs done. This is another aspect of 100% completion that we'll eventually have to reach. If you didn't know, when you go and check the Adventurers Guild, there's a certain number of each monster in the game that you have to kill, and you get a reward for doing so, and we have to reach all of those numbers. In this case, it was a sword that was pretty useless to us, but it was nice to check off one nonetheless. The rest of my day was spent clearing wood on the farm, as this is my default thing to do when I'm really just not sure what to do, because foraging XP and wood is always helpful. And as a result, we got level 6 foraging that night, unlocking lightning rods. At the halfway mark of summer, we had a blueberry harvest. We also finally ended up crafting a couple of tappers, before chopping more wood to get up to 450, so we could go to Robin's and upgrade our barn to the big barn. The rest of the day we spent trying to clear as much debris as possible around our farm, as well as gather hay for our new silo. That night we got level 8 farming, which unlocked kegs, which if you have any experience in the late game of Stardew at all, you know these are paramount to making copious amounts of cash, which as I touched on previously we will definitely need for this run. We also ended up making 12k from our blueberry harvest, so the goal for the barn upgrade basically came right back to us. On day 43, we started the morning with some football with Alex on the beach, before grabbing a fetch quest for gold ore from Clint. Then we luckily foraged a sea urchin, which allowed us to make a bait maker, before buying the fish smoker recipe from Willie. My goal for the day was to actually create a fish smoker, so after catching the new summer fish of pike, dorado, and sunfish, I realized I currently only had the river jelly, and the recipe calls for the other 2 types of jellies as well. Now, not in my proudest moment, I spent the majority of the rest of the day up at the mountain lake fishing for what I thought was a lake jelly, only to realize that definitely doesn't exist. So I ended up eventually going back down to the ocean to get the sea jelly before going home for the night. Day 44 was a green rain day, so I basically just spent this entire day on the farm clearing out land and gathering moss where I saw it. The barn was finished the next day, but I decided I didn't have enough money to buy a goat yet, as I had other things I wanted to spend my money on that day. Instead, I made my way over to Sam and gave him a Joja Cola for his birthday, before heading back up to Robin's to commission her to upgrade my coop into a big coop. Since I finally realized that the third jelly was the cave jelly and not the fictional lake jelly, I decided I would go catch one of those today, as well as some of the cave fish that I just haven't caught yet. I got a ghost fish, a stonefish, and a lava eel. Unfortunately, I gave up on the ice pip because that thing is just miserable to catch for some reason, but I did end up getting my cave jelly I needed. That allowed me to finally make the fish smoker, which if you didn't know basically doubles the price of fish when sold, so I smoked a couple of fish before I went to bed that night to make a little extra. On day 46, some of my blueberries were ready to harvest, as well as some of my trees that I had planted to tap had grown, so I got some tappers down. and then I headed over to Marnie's to buy 2 goats. Also, if you know where these goats' names are from, then you are the goat. I realized I've been neglecting the bookseller unintentionally, so today I decided to stop by, only to realize I was way too broke to even think about coming here. I did find a prize ticket hidden behind the stand though. I had a quest from Lewis for red slimes, so I ran the high 80s floors, luckily getting an infested floor, where I managed to finish it. After that I was back to resetting floor 20 to get more copper, as I ran out from creating all the tappers previously. I got another achievement that night though for shipping 300 of a single crop, due to that second blueberry harvest today, on top of a pretty 14k. I took that gold over to Marnie's in the morning to pick up some ducks and 2 more goats to fill my new animal shelters. Next we met Lewis in the town square to turn in that slime quest, and then went up to give Demetrius a strawberry for his birthday. Back on the farm I made and put down some lightning rods for the next thunderstorm, as well as some mayo machines for processing the eggs as I get them from my coop. I also crafted some wooded fences, which earned me the DIY achievement for crafting 15 different items, before using the said fences to enclose my animals. That night I got level 7 foraging, unlocking tree fertilizer, which will be very helpful in getting these tapper trees grown in the future. On day 48 my cows started producing milk, so milking them was now a part of my morning routine. But also the trout derby started, so I made my way down there with the fish smoker and the bait maker. I smoked the fish as I went along and basically only used rainbow trout bait the entire day. I ended up getting most of the rewards, the first of which being the tent kit, so I decided to use it to sleep down there for the night. The next day I woke up and just went right back to fishing until I ended up finishing all the rewards. And then I made my way over to the community center with some new donations before gathering wood around the farm to make a couple of cheese presses to go in the barn to process the milk in a similar manner as the mayo machines I made earlier. We also had a small harvest that morning that got us up to level 9 farming, unlocking the seed maker, and the highest tier sprinkler in the game, that being the iridium sprinkler. Day 50 started with another blueberry harvest, before stopping by Pierre's to buy the final backpack upgrade. I then posted up at the mountain lake with the idea of using the bait maker and the fish smoker combo to catch and smoke a bunch of sturgeon, but unfortunately I ended up running out of coal. On the way back I hit the community center to drop off a sturgeon to finish the lakefish bundle, as well as went ahead and bought the 2.5k and 5k vault bundles. That night, like many before, was spent gathering wood, but when I did sleep, I got a crop fairy cutscene. Ignore those non-harvested blueberries beside those. I definitely picked those, and the game is just lying to you. On day 51, I started one of my first long-term grinds, which took the form of resetting floor 40 of the mines repeatedly, and it was really just to get 3 things. You see, firstly, these floors spawn iron ore, so that can be collected and will obviously be very useful, but the real objective was these buggers. These guys are called dust sprites, and I have 2 major objectives for killing them. The first is those adventurer goals I mentioned before, but I specifically want to kill these for the reward that you get from that bounty, as they give a ring called the Burglar's Ring, which pretty much doubles monsters' drops. So I don't think it takes much to see how that would definitely also be useful. Secondarily though, they are also just a really good source of coal, and I am just running low on that and will need tons of it to get through this playthrough. So I spent basically the whole day down here in the mines, and this will be my new activity I do when I'm not sure what to do, like fishing was previously. Now looking back on the recording of day 52, I am really not sure what I was doing here. I obviously started off the day doing my normal chores like harvesting crops and taking care of my animals, but then I ended up making my way down to the beach to give Willie a gold bar for his birthday. I must have liked it down there, or I was thinking I needed to build up some money for the remaining vault bundles, as I basically just spent the rest of the day down there fishing and smoking. Just like Willie for real. He's just like me. Day 53 was a rainy day, and I still hadn't caught a red snapper for some reason, so I went down to the beach and snagged one of those for the fishing collection before taking it up to the community center, along with a couple of other items to finish up the ocean fish bundle. I also brought a melon up here with me that I had forgotten to turn in previously, and managed to finish the summer crops bundle, before getting stuck behind this guy just trying to get the hell out of here. After this it was back to farming dust sprites, and I managed to get level 8 mining that night as a result. I checked the fruit cave for the first time the next day, and ended up getting an apricot, which I needed for a bundle. I also had my final blueberry harvest of the season. I then crafted a preserves jar and a mushroom log, as obviously I need to craft these, but I also need things that these things process to ship and use for bundles in the future. Upon checking on my chickens, I found a large white egg, completing the items that I needed for them for the bundles, as I've already turned in the large brown one. I went over to Clint's to drop my axe off for a gold upgrade, and then it was back to my goal of dust sprite eradication for the rest of the day. I had some assorted crops to harvest like always on morning 55, but then it was straight back to the dust sprites. I did go check how many I had killed so far though when the Adventurers Guild opened to get a metric of how long this would take, and was sadly disappointed to see that I wasn't even halfway to the 500 that I needed yet. I ended up getting discouraged and leaving early to go to the community center, and I went ahead and fronted the money to finish the last 2 vault bundles, as well as finishing off the exotic foraging bundles from the sap I got from the trees that I had tapped previously. After this diversion, I returned to the mines, but this time to run floor 80, to stock up on some extra gold ore. I reached a milestone of 250k earned that night, receiving the Homesteader achievement, as well as the cutscene of the bus to the desert getting fixed. And my farming in the mines earned me level 7 combat as well. On the last day of summer, my axe was ready, so I picked that up and dropped off my pick for a gold upgrade. I then took some of the resources I had farmed from all my mining and built some more quality sprinklers, and set them out to expand my farming plot for the next season. Since I didn't have my pick, I basically just cleared more trees and debris around the farm to kill time after that, until the Moonlight Festival started that night, sending out summer and in fall. I started off fall with restructuring the farm layout a bit, and tried to put down a path to make things look a bit better, but I fixed this later, I promise. Next stop was Pierre's to buy the new crops I needed to plant this season, and I ended up picking up about 40 pumpkin seeds, because I needed to get those for the quality crops bundle since I missed the parsnips in spring, as well as a couple eggplants and some yam seeds, before spending the rest of my money on 117 cranberry seeds, as they are the cash crop this season. The rest of the day was just spent watering and planting these crops. I should also note that I had some quality fertilizer lying around, so I tried to use that to ensure that I got the 5 gold star pumpkins that I needed. After the normal morning routine on day 2 of fall, I went and picked up my new gold pickaxe. Also, while exploring town, I stumbled upon the new special request board that has various rotating long-term quests on it that you can choose a new one of each week. These will prove pretty important for the run, as a lot of them have unique crafting recipes as their rewards. So I'm going to try to work my way through the ones that I need as I see them. Today, I decided I would go ahead and take Robin's Resource Rush, which is basically just to get 1,000 wood. I spent the rest of the day traveling around and catching new fish for the collection log. I managed to get a salmon, the angler, the sea cucumber, the wood skip, and the midnight carp to round the day off. I tried to visit Pierre's to pick up more seeds on the morning of day 3, but I forgot that he's closed on Wednesdays. I had a small corn harvest waiting for me though when I returned back home empty-handed, which managed to get me up to level 10 farming. I basically spent most of the day after that collecting wood for Robin's Resource Rush. Now here starts one of my weirdest mess-ups that'll be ongoing for a bit. I think I must have had like a stroke or something when I was reading the wiki page, because for some reason I got it in my head that to catch a walleye, I needed to catch it between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m., when really it's 12 p.m. to 2 a.m., so basically it's the whole afternoon, but I was thinking it's just those 2 hours at night. And I also completely ignored the part that said that rain was needed, so this definitely won't be the last time you see me do this, where I spend the late night hours trying to catch a walleye at a place that I literally just can't get it. In bed that night though, we got to pick our final farming profession, that being artisan, which makes artisan goods worth 40% more, as well as getting level 8 foraging. On day 60 I went to Pierre's as he was open today, and I picked up 200 pumpkin seeds. I basically just spent the rest of this day just trying to get all these in the ground and watered, which I was not able to do unfortunately for the latter. Day 61 was just a big errands day. I got Woody's Secret, a new power book that gives me a 5% chance for trees to give double wood. I chopped some trees and finished Robin's Resource Rush, resulting in also getting the Gopher achievement for completing 10 Help Wanted quest, along with 2,500 gold. I went over to Clint's and started a copper hoe upgrade before cracking all my geodes, where I got 1 new mineral to donate to the museum. I grabbed my prize ticket for completing the special order and took it into Lewis's house to get a Star Drop Tea, which is a universally loved gift that'll be very helpful when going for all max friendships. I gave George a hot pepper for a fetch quest. I hit the community center, turning in the wood skip and the tiger trout, finishing the riverfish bundle. I also finished the artisan bundle with some blueberry jelly I made with those preserve jars previously, as well as a peach I found in the fruit bat caves, and the animal bundle as well with the large goat milk. The last bundle I finished for today was the fall foraging bundle, but I also dropped off the wood needed for the construction bundle while I was here. I spent the rest of the day fishing and smoking down by the river in the hopes of making some money and getting a walleye, because I am extremely illiterate apparently. On day 62, I finally finished the cursed wooden path before replacing all the trees in my little tree farm with oak trees, as oak resin is the one I'll need the most going forward. I also went ahead and surrounded these with wooden paths this time, as I realized on the previous iteration that a lot of them weren't growing due to random seeds and stuff spawning near them, so hopefully this will fix that. Next it was down to the beach, where I found a sea urchin that I could use for the dye bundle, before getting some crab pots set up in the ocean to start working on that part of the fishing collection log. The rest of the day was spent down there fishing, and I did get a single new catch in the form of an albacore. Day 63, I had a couple of mess ups. It all started when I went to Clint's to pick up my hoe, but I left the copper that I had planned to bring to upgrade my watering can. I gave Lewis a hot pepper for his birthday before making my way to the mines, only to realize that I didn't even have my sword on me. So I basically just returned home in failure, headed back to Clint's to upgrade the watering can, and then had my sword so I could go back and run the mines at floor 20 for some copper farming. We started day 64 with our first cranberry harvest. We then started the ultimate late game money making, that is kegs, by starting to place some down outside by the bus stop and putting some cranberries into them. This is a relatively small start, but we will build this up over time, don't you worry. Next we made our way over to Robin's to drop off a hazelnut for a quest, as well as get started on our final barn upgrade, which will unlock us pigs. And then for the rest of the day after that, it was floor 40 farming for dust sprites and iron. That night we made a whopping 27k from our harvest as well, so that was pretty solid. We got a letter from Mayor Lewis telling us about the Stardew Valley fair coming up in a week, so we decided to spend the morning getting together a couple of items to go ahead and set aside to win the display contest. Next it was over to Clint's, as our watering can upgrade was done, so we picked that up and then dropped off our hoe for an iron upgrade. We got a new quest from the special orders board, that being the Juicy Bugs Wanted quest for Willy, and after picking up some hay from Marnie as we were running low, it basically made this our focus for the rest of the day, resetting floor 25 to try to find as many bugs as possible. We ended the day down at the pond trying to get the walleye, which I technically actually could have gotten here with the rain and the time, but I also could have caught it for like the past 12 hours if I had just come here sooner. And unfortunately in that little time window we didn't end up getting it. Day 66 was pretty much solely focused on running floor 20 for farming bug meat for the quest. We did end up however getting an ancient seed drop, which was pretty hype, and that night we were also surprised by another crop fairy. On day 67, we harvested said crops, getting the 5 gold star pumpkins that we needed. We then put some tappers down on all the new oak trees we had planted for our resin farm. On entering our coop, we found a duck feather which was needed for a community bundle, so that was also exciting. Since our barn upgrade had finished, we made our way down to Marnie's and picked up 2 pigs. Then it was off to the community center to finish the fodder bundle with apples from our apple tree, the dye bundle with the sea urchin and today's duck feather, the fall crops bundle with one of each of our harvest, and lastly the quality crops bundle with those 5 gold star pumpkins, finishing off the pantry. From there we went and gave Jody a chocolate cake for her birthday, before barely missing closing time at Clint's. But since we were already over here, we dropped off our ancient seed at the museum, and then it was back to the mines for more bug meat. That night, since we finished the pantry, we got the cutscene for the greenhouse getting rebuilt, which will be very helpful with winter coming. We made our way over to Clint's on day 68 to pick up our new steel hoe before cracking some geodes. As always, this left us with some things to donate to the museum, and we received one of the rare crows that we needed from there as a reward. I went ahead and planted the ancient fruit and the starfruit seed that I had in the greenhouse to go ahead and get these seeds multiplying. Then it was back to the mines to work on Willy's quest some more, which we ended up finishing. Also picking up the last dwarf scroll that we needed for the collection during this process. We made our way down to the docks to turn it in, resetting our crab pots on the way, before ending the day in the secret woods for some hardwood. Also, I'm not really sure what, but something happened that night, as we had a cutscene that sounded like strong wind or something. On day 69, we were awakened by Gunther, who visited us to give us the rusty key, which we immediately forgot about, because it was cranberry harvest time, baby. It also happened to be Abigail's birthday, so we gave her an amethyst when we stopped by Pierre's to restock on some various seeds. We did put that key that Gunther gave us to use though after that, by venturing down and meeting Krobus, and while we were there we went ahead and bought the star drop off of him. This is another thing that we need to collect all 7 of, and we've gotten 2 so far, and we get the other ones through various means throughout the game, so we'll just touch on them as they come up. Since we were already in this area, I headed over to the secret woods to get some hardwood, when I noticed that this log had a quest for 100 hardwood. We'll return to that. The rest of the day was spent running floor 40, but you guys already know the deal on that, and we got level 9 mining that night from all the hard work. Day 70 was not Marnie's birthday, but we started the day by taking a pink cake down to her as a gift anyways. We also picked up a truffle from the traveling merchant since it was available now, and we didn't have one for our pigs yet, as well as the rare crow that was in stock. Then it was time for a long-awaited triumph. After finally figuring out how to read the wiki well, I caught the walleye in the forest pond. We dropped off the last of the dwarf scrolls at the museum and received the dwarven translation guide, and then made our way to the community center to finally finish the night fishing bundle and the construction bundle. We also stopped by Marlin's on our way to the mines and grabbed this book from the back room called Mapping Cave Systems, which gives us a 50% discount on items recovery service. Since we had the dwarven translation guide, we picked up another rare crow from the dwarf before heading back to some more dust sprite farming. On the 71st day, we got a new special orders quest in the form of the Prismatic jelly quest, and then made our way to Robin's to get a deluxe coop upgrade started, since we'll need the rabbit's foot as well for the community center. To be honest, I regret not prioritizing this sooner, as this is one of the most luck-related drops that we have yet to acquire, but I was still pretty ignorant to that at this time. The rest of the day was spent resetting floor 5 to try to find the Prismatic jelly, which we did manage to get, and turn into the wizard to round out our day. Day 72 is the day of the Stardew Valley festival, so we gathered all the items we had previously set aside for our booth, and then headed into town. We set up our booth, and then took place in everyone's favorite activity, gambling. After building up 2,600 silver stars from betting the bank, and enjoying it just a bit too much, Lewis judged our display, and we won, earning us an achievement for doing so. The last thing to do was spend the winnings, so we left with the unique rare crow, a star drop, a prize ticket, and an espresso. Day 73 brought a pumpkin harvest, and since we also ran out of hay for our animals, we made our way down to Marnie's to buy some more, and picked up an auto grabber for our barn while we were there. Since we had finished the wizard's prismatic jelly quest, we had also unlocked the recipe for monster musk, which increases monster spawns, so we crafted some and then spent the rest of the day farming as many dust sprites as possible. We slept well that night, not only earning level 8 combat, but also over 50k from that day's harvest. We had more crops ready on the morning of the 74th day, as well as some more oak resin for more casks. It was Marnie's birthday today, so I found her at Harvey's and gave her a diamond, which is a really good birthday present if I do say so myself. I realized I had missed planting any amaranth, so we picked up some seed from Pierre's, and by some I mean 150, before heading up to Robin's and commissioning the first home upgrade. The rest of the day was spent hopping back and forth between the mines and the farm, with the hope of getting this resin turned into kegs, and also further my dust sprite eradication goals. Day 75 started by checking the traveling cart, where we managed to pick up a red cabbage, which we still needed for bundles. We then hopped over to the secret woods for a bit more hardwood, so we could repair that tree that was asking for it. Next was Marnie's, where we picked up an auto grabber for our coop, as well as 4 rabbits and a pig. We also grabbed the mayor's shorts from her room while we were there, because I finally remembered to do so. We gave Caroline a pumpkin, just because she asked, dropped off the shorts with the mayor, before stopping by the bookseller, where we picked up The Way of the Wind Part 1, increasing our movement speed slightly. Then, like clockwork, it was back to the dust sprites. We finally took the bus to the desert on day 76, and I tried the skull caverns for my very first time ever. It went poorly, to say the least, and I managed to die on floor 2. Floor 2. You can't make this shit up. On top of that, I had a stack of 121 coal on me that I lost when I was in there. So I headed straight to Marlin's to get it back, but he wasn't open yet. So I killed some time farming some dust sprites and finally managed to actually finish the adventure goal for them. So when Marlin finally did open, not only did I pay to recover my coal, but I also got the burglar ring, which will be best in slot for the foreseeable future. I made my way back to the desert with my tail between my legs and caught the sandfish that I needed for the final fishing bundle. Upon returning, we grabbed Linus's berry basket and then went and turned in our final fish, finishing the aquarium. We ended the day gift giving in the saloon, and we gave Marnie an amaranth she asked us for, getting us the achievement for our first 5-star friend. We checked on the house that we had built after that, and found that a raccoon had moved in, and it seemed like he wanted some mussels and a smoked salmon for some reason. That night, a lot happened when we slept. We got an achievement for upgrading our house, we got the cutscene for the boulder being removed, and we also got level 9 foraging. Day 77 turned out to be a pretty errand heavy day. We planted some rice, visited the traveling merchant but didn't buy anything, fried an egg in our new kitchen for a bundle, caught and smoked a salmon, got a copper pan from Willie at the mountain lake, gave Robin a birthday peach, turned in the stuff for the raccoon's first quest, and sent him on a hunt for a wife, and then chopped some hardwood to rebuild our supply. because that raccoon house was costly. On day 78, we returned to the Skull Caverns again, and failed once again, this time dying on floor 32. We did manage to get a prismatic shard right before dying though, so that was pretty cool, and will definitely be useful in the future. And we also had a challenge from someone named Key to get to floor 25, so we finished that too. The rest of the day was spent organizing chests inside my house, so I could store and put away the resources that I would eventually need to cook every dish in the future. We also picked up a special order from Demetrius called Biome Balance to catch a bunch of fish this day too, but that footage corrupted unfortunately. Day 78 started like many days before it, with a cranberry harvest, along with a 10k check in the mail from Key. We spent more time moving miscellaneous items from chest into the house, so that we could use them for cooking in the future, and we didn't use them for other things. I even went to Pierre's and picked up some things I would need for recipes in the future as well from him. We fished to finish that special order from Demetrius, and grabbed a couple of fish needed for cooking while doing so too. On day 80, I bought my first sheep. I also had a prize ticket to spend, so I stopped by Lewis's house and got the Friendship 101 book as a reward, which is a book we needed. This increases the amount of friendship we earn with others, so it's actually pretty massive. Then it was back to Robin's, and I decided it was time to build a shed that would eventually become our keg shed, so we got her started on that. We gave Leah a bream because she asked for it, and George a leek for his birthday. We give some weird birthday gifts around here, before just killing time fishing and clearing debris on the farm like normal. On day 81, we geared up once again to go back to the Skull Caverns for revenge, by buying and crafting some bombs this time. We also took that prismatic shard we got last time, and turned it in for a galaxy sword once we arrived. As a result, the caverns themselves actually went much smoother this time, and we managed to make it down to floor 52 before having to call it a night. We didn't really get anything crazy though, other than some artifact troves, but overall not dying is a success in my book at this point. We started the morning of day 82 by making a maki roll in the kitchen, which was needed for a community center bundle, before having a massive amaranth harvest. Next we went over to Clint's to crack all our geodes from the caverns runs, and managed to get some more museum donations, which we are making pretty good progress on, I would say. It was then over to the community center to finish the chef's bundle for some pink cakes. I then decided I would go hunt down a couple new fish we hadn't caught yet, so we headed towards the bus to go to the desert, but before heading over there we dropped off a battery pack in this box in the tunnel to start a quest for the mysterious Mr. Key. Then we caught the scorpion corp in the desert, and while we were there picked up some beet seeds for later. And then went down to the sewer and caught the mutant carp, which we smoked and sold. We started day 83 off with the trusty combo of Secret Woods for hardwood and Marty for hay, before starting to get our keg layout set up in the shed. We also went ahead and planted some mahogany seeds that we had on the farm to get some extra hardwood stockpiled in the future. We had a rainbow shell lying around, so we dropped that off at the train station to progress Key's quest, where he wants us now to put 10 beets inside of Lewis's fridge. Pretty odd, but alright. So we set up our greenhouse with some sprinklers, and planted the beets that we had picked up yesterday. I completely forgot that tonight was Spirit's Eve, so I rushed over into town, and while I was there making my rounds and talking to everyone, I got the Clicks achievement for reaching 5-star level hearts with 4 different people, so that was unexpected, before also buying the jack-o'-lantern recipe and picking up the rare crow. The last thing I had to do was the maze to get the golden pumpkin, just to kind of flex on them, and it's also a universally loved gift. Day 84 was our last day of fall, and it started with our last fall harvest, which we kegged what we could of and sold the rest off. It was also the start of our very last pick upgrade, as we took 5 iridium bars over to Clint's, and decided to go ahead and knock that out. We also went up to the train station and decided that we would need more trees for tapping in the future, so we planted even more. The rest of the day was just some housekeeping to end the season. We gave Haley a sunflower, we sold all of our spare swords and gear to Marlin to get rid of them, we fished up a couple of fish we would need for future use, and chopped some wood, and before we knew it, it was wintertime. On the first day of winter, I started by planting the powder melon seeds I had, and then the luckiest thing yet happened. I walked into my coop like I do every morning and was greeted by a rabbit's foot, the only item that was still RNG based that I needed to complete the community center, so this was very hype. I saw some random shadow man whenever I left my farm, and then I made my way over to the desert to stock up on starfruit for my greenhouse. The first is also Krobus' birthday, so I dropped off a horseradish with him before heading to the beach and lucking out once again by finding a nautilus shell, which I still needed for bundles. On the way back, we picked up a new special request in the form of Cave Patrol, which asked us to kill 50 grubs, before running around to gather the rest of the winter foraging that I needed for the bundles, which I managed to get, and so it was over the community center where I turned in the nautilus shell to finish the field research bundle, the rabbit's foot to finish the enchanter's bundle, and the bulletin board as a whole, and then it was over to the crafts room to finish that with the winter foraging, which was our final bundle needed. This is the first time I've ever actually even completed the community center bundles, so finishing them all by winter 1st feels pretty good to me. While we were in the area, we found the Shadow Man in the bushes to get the magnifying glass, and then finally took those starfruit seeds that we had bought earlier back to the greenhouse to get them all situated in there. That night we got the cutscene for the bridge repair, which opens up the quarry, which I've literally never been to in this game before, so that's exciting. On day 86, we got the glorious cutscene for restoring the community center, as well as the accompanying achievement, before sicking Pierre on Morris's corporate ass. From there it was over to Clint's to pick up our new iridium pick, before finally realizing that there was a hidden golden trash can back here that contains the book called The Alleyway Buffet, which improves our chances of finding things when searching trash cans. Not really that useful to be honest, but still one we need nonetheless. I made slaying grubs my focus after this, and took a monster mash and farmed floor 25, which we managed to finish, earning an ancient seed as well in the process, as well as finishing the Slayer goal for the little worm Dug things. We got a variety of cutscenes that evening upon exploring the town, like Linus showing us some new bait. Weird cutscene, but okay. Catching Lewis and Marnie sneaking around, and helping Gus confront Pam to pay her tab. And as a result, we got the networking achievement for reaching 5-star level friendships with 10 different people. Gus came over on the morning of day 87 to make some odd noises and give me a mini jukebox. Our mail contained a lot of new recipes that morning, as well as an invite to the back of Willie's shop whenever we get the chance. Wonder what that's for. We took our spare ancient seed and then crafted that into a plantable ancient seed, and got the artisan achievement for crafting 30 items as a result. Next, we ran a birthday gift of cactus fruit over to Linus, before heading to the desert and running the skull caverns for the rest of the day, and literally only getting 1 iridium ore. You can't make this shit up. I did however get level 10 mining that night, and we chose prospector for our new profession, increasing our chance to find coal, as well as level 9 combat, so it wasn't all a wash. Day 88 started with an oak resin harvest before heading back to the Skull Caverns for the day, where we managed to find not only a treasure room with a purple slime egg, but also a prehistoric floor, where we managed to get a dinosaur egg as a drop. And I also gathered a much more respectable amount of iridium this day. I incubated that dinosaur egg on day 89, and then did some various errands like hardwood, kegs, and museum donations, before finally checking out the boat in the back of Willie's shop. I just so happened to have the batteries and iridium already on me, so I dropped that off while I was there. We also got another cutscene with Linus, where I didn't ask him to move onto my farm before deciding to hunt down some new winter fish for the collection. I managed to catch the lingcod, the perch, the squid, and the goby. I gave up on the winter legend though, and decided I would come back better equipped later. On day 90, my beets that I had been growing in the greenhouse were finally done, so I dropped 10 of those off in Lewis's fridge to progress the key quest, before heading to the desert and doing the solar essence step as well to finish it. We spent the rest of the day in the Skull Caverns and it was pretty uneventful other than another dino egg. On the morning of day 91, Pierre was trespassing on my front porch to loiter and trying to tell me to buy some more seeds from him. After we finally got rid of him, I went down to the train station and got a cutscene from the wizard about his ex-wife, where he asked me to find some magical ink for him. We also saw that all of our trees up here are grown as well, so we got some tappers on them to improve our overall oak resin production, before heading over to Linus to gift him a gift, and we managed to max out our friendship with him, earning the best friends achievement. It was really just a day of cutscenes after this, as I got not 1, but 2 when I went down to Robin's to buy a slime hutch so I could put that purple slime egg in the incubator, which looking back on it really wasn't worth it to be honest. We stopped by Pierre's to give Caroline a birthday gift before witnessing a fight between the dwarf and Krobus in the sewer. We then suited up with some buffs and went back down to try our hand at the legend, and managed to catch him this time, before also using the buff to go catch the ice pip, since that fish is just hell to catch as well. Lastly, we ran through the mutant bug lair to get the dark talisman, and tried to catch the slimejack as well while we were there, but we were ultimately unsuccessful. On day 92, we had our first powder melon harvest, and we replanted the seeds that we had gathered since after that. We went to pick up a special order from the board and took aquatic overpopulation, which was a mistake, as I've already done this one, but it's fine. It was also the ice festival, so we headed over there and schooled everyone in the fishing contest, before just grabbing a perch to use as bait in the future, so whenever we do need to take care of that aquatic overpopulation quest, we have it. On day 93, we had a bunch of winter seed forageables ready to be harvested, so we tended to that and then replanted that morning before heading down to Willie's to find it absolutely swarmed by crabs. We had finally gathered enough hardwood, so we actually repaired the boat, and gave Willie a diamond on the way out for him to make it snappy. Next stop, the Witch's Swamp. We fished up the void salmon and a void mayo to get past the goblin, and managed to get the wizard's ink back. We spent the rest of the day fishing up perch to finish that special order that we really didn't even need to do. The boat got repaired that night, so we have officially unlocked Ginger Island. Day 94, my slime hutch was finished, so Marlin stopped by in the morning to talk to me about it, and also gave me another egg. I also had my first batch of starfruit ready to harvest, so they went straight to the kegs for starfruit wine. We played some video games with Abigail before witnessing a bit of a tiff between her and Caroline. We were ultimately there to pick up the dehydrator recipe from Pierre, so that's what we did before making our way over to Robin's to do some gifting to everyone, including Sebastian, for his birthday. We finally got around to getting our casino card from the woodpile on our farm before making our way over to the desert for some foraging and everyone's favorite activity, gambling. Before going in though, we bought some more starfruit seeds, and then we wasted away on the slot machines for what felt like an eternity to finally get enough key coins to buy the rare crow. Lastly, we stopped by Haley's house to give her a coconut, as I decided she's the person I'm going to try to marry this run. The raccoons were asking for some dried powder melons, and those were done on the morning of day 95, so I brought those over there to receive a new book called the Raccoon Journal, which increases our chances of getting seeds from grass. Overall pretty useless, but another thing checked off. We also received the deluxe scarecrow recipe in the mail, since we had officially collected all the rare crows. We stopped by the wizard's to return his ink, which unlocked us the ability to build magic buildings before going over to Willie's to finally take the journey to Ginger Island, which was an achievement in itself. We managed to get a golden coconut like right away, and then we spent the rest of the time gathering the golden walnuts we could. Now if you're unaware, there's like 130 different golden walnuts that are found on Ginger Island, and we're gonna have to collect all of them. So that's basically what I'm focusing on here when I said I started collecting the golden walnuts I could. We unlocked both Island North and Island West as we found the walnuts that we needed to do so, and chopped some of the hardwood logs on the island farm to manage to get level 10 foraging. We also managed to fish up a lionfish before heading back to the mainland to finish filling our shed with kegs. And we picked botanist that night for our final foraging profession, making everything that we forage from now on purple quality. Day 96 was the first day of Squid Fest, so that was basically our main focus. We managed to collect every reward, and we also finally got the shrimp in the ocean crab pots we had set up previously, rounding out all the ocean crab pot fish that we needed to collect for the collection. So we moved the pots to freshwater to get started on those. We then returned to the mutant bug layer again to finally catch the slime jack. On day 97, our female purple slime hatched, so we started incubating the green slime egg, but I'm really not going to talk about this anymore because, to be honest, this building is pretty useless and so is growing these slimes. On our way to head back down to Squidfest, we harvested our newly placed crab pots and managed to get every freshwater fish in one go, so that was pretty lucky. We also stopped by Haley's house to gift her and got a couple of cutscenes before going back to Squidfest and getting all the rewards for day 2. On day 98, we got a letter telling us that a traveling merchant fleet would be in town for a night market starting tomorrow, so I will definitely be attending that. It was Harvey's birthday, so we dropped off a copy for him at the clinic before stumbling upon Sebastian working on his motorcycle. We had our first resin harvest ready at the train station for more keg supplies, and then after gathering together the supplies, we made our way to Robin's to start an upgrade on our shed to go ahead and make it into a big shed. We took a trip to the desert for forage and starfruit seeds before spending the rest of the day running errands like gifting Haley, having dinner with Jody and Sam, and taking a dark essence over to the wizard. That evening, since my fence had broken apart, I decided I would go ahead and expand it as well. Day 99 was a Monday, so I went ahead and made my way over to the special orders board for a new quest, and ended up choosing Island Ingredients, which is a quest to gather ginger on Ginger Island. I'm warning you now that this was a terrible decision, but we'll see more about that in the future. So naturally, I headed over to Ginger Island to collect more golden walnuts as well as the ginger needed for this quest. I spent most of the day struggling at Simon Says before warping to the beach for the first night of the night market. While I was here, I took the submarine underwater and caught the midnight squid and the spookfish. I stayed way too late down there though, because I didn't realize that it took time to come up and almost passed out. But luckily I paid this weird shrouded figure to teleport me home, forgetting to buy the garlic seed that I had meant to buy in the process. We are officially in the triple digit days now. Day 100 started with a forageable harvest before making my way to the desert to run some skull caverns. I also decided I was going to give Sandy a gift every time I enter the desert from here on out, as we kind of need to catch up on her friendship. I managed to get a prismatic shard and make it down to floor 27 before teleporting to the night market as soon as it opened to avoid yesterday's near disaster. I went back down to the submarine and managed to catch the blobfish this time, and picked up a melon and a wheat seed off the seed trader before calling it a night. We are so close to catching all the fish for the collection at this point, with only 4 more to go, so that feels pretty good. On day 101, we had our first batch of starfruits wine finish, with 40 in total being processed. It was also the wizard's birthday, so I went on a trek to drop him off a gift before heading back over to Ginger Island to collect more golden walnuts, which we ended up spending to go ahead and unlock the Ginger Island farm. We also met this old lady who had apparently been on the island for a while, but she didn't really introduce herself. Instead, she just kind of asked us a favor of returning a war memento, which I thought was a bit odd. I decided to try to collect the fishing golden walnuts, and in the process, I caught another new fish in the form of the blue discus. It got late, so we slept in our new second home and got the millionaire achievement for earning our first million, as our wine sold for 126k that night. A bit ironic to get that achievement after buying our second home that day. The morning of day 102, it was back to fishing for golden walnuts, and I managed to catch the octopus in the process, leaving only 2 fish that we need to catch to finish our collection. We also got all the fishing golden walnuts and unlocked the dig site next. On the dig site, there was a dude stuck in a cave, so we bombed him out of there. And it turns out dude really likes bones and has certain ones that he needs us to collect. So we went ahead and handed over all the ones that we already had on us. After that, we decided to take our first shot at the volcano dungeon, and I managed to get up to the 5th floor before unlocking the exit shortcut and heading back to the mainland farm. We had more wines ready for selling that night, bringing in another 66k. Day 103, we had a bit of a starfruit harvest. I also hate how all these crops are in different stages, but we'll fix that in the future. Next, we went and bought a metric butt ton of hay since we keep running out from Marnie. Then you know the deal. It was desert for starfruit seeds, followed by a mediocre skull caverns run, where I managed to get down to floor 49. On day 104, I prepped to go to Ginger Island and plant all the starfruit that I had bought, but I never actually managed to make it there. Instead, I ran some errands like opening a ton of geodes and getting nothing of value other than another ancient seed, going to Robin's to buy a bunch of wood to make more kegs for the keg shed, which I also reorganized to better fit the space after the new upgrade to the big shed. I stopped by George's place to gift Evelyn for her birthday and got 2 different cutscenes, and she wasn't even there. So I had to go over to the community center and I eventually gave her a fairy rose. Then it was back to keg crafting since all the ore I was smelting was done. And after getting everything I could at that time down, I decided to go ahead and drop yesterday's starfruit harvest in there. Ginger Island was calling my name on day 105 as I needed to get all these starfruit seeds I had bought into the ground, as well as the couple of seeds that I had actually remembered to buy from the night market that would be needed in the future for the frog quest. I'm looking at you, garlic seed. We planted about half of the 160 starfruit seeds that we had over there with sprinklers, and then went over to the dig site and hunted down some fossils we were still missing for the collection. We also explored the entire island looking for ginger, and it was at this point I realized I probably wasn't feasibly going to be able to hit that goal this go around. Time slipped away from us and we ended up sleeping on the island that night. It was raining on the morning of day 106, so we managed to finally get our first gym bird. We have to find 4 of these in total, and they only spawn when it's raining on Ginger Island, so we gotta keep our eyes peeled for them. We headed over to the dig site after that to donate the fossils that I had collected yesterday, getting us about halfway done with those. I wanted to run the volcano after that, but I realized I didn't have my watering can, so I ran all the way home to grab it. I also stopped by Gus at the bar and stocked up on every adventurer's favorite food, salad. Then I returned to Ginger Island and ran the volcano, and I managed to make it all the way to the top, basically at midnight, earning me a prismatic shard. And since we were there, we went ahead and enchanted our sword and got the artful enchantment, which really isn't that great. Day 107 was the biggest disaster of this entire video. Basically, I went to the Skull Caverns with the intention of finally getting down to floor 100. I prepped a lot of bombs and staircases, and I used most of my resources to do so, and I managed to make it all the way down to floor 66 when I accidentally did this. I don't know if you can tell what's happening, but I thought I was going to eat a salad, but what I actually did was click on the menu to leave the mines, and as a result I lost all my progress. Now I was very pissed about this, I won't lie to you, so I did go ahead and reset the day and do this again with even better prep work, and I managed to be successful this time, getting down to floor 120 and gathering 140 iridium ore. I'm not proud that I reset it, but it was in a very frustrated moment, so hopefully you guys can forgive that. I also managed to get an auto petter in the journey down, so that was pretty sweet as well. Oh, and that night when I went to sleep, I got level 10 combat, choosing the brute profession to do 15% more damage, and unlocking the achievement for maxing every skill. We placed our new auto petter in our coop on day 108 with the hopes of eventually getting iridium grade rabbit's feet for gifts, We hit Clint's next and managed to pull another Prizzy and some more minerals which we donated. I can't believe I call that a Prizzy. What is this script? We officially only have 4 more minerals to go, which is pretty awesome. We have been slacking thus far on picking up a new special order for the week, because I honestly just didn't know that I could have multiple. So we picked up Gus's special omelet, which should be rather easy as it's just gathering some eggs. We dropped a GIF off with Haley before heading to Ginger Island to try to see if we could find some more ginger for this other quest, but we could find very little, so we just ran the volcano instead, reaching the summit to go ahead and re-roll the enchant on my sword, which we got vampire this time, which is infinitely more useful. On day 109, some more of our awkwardly growth-timed starfruit was ready for us, so we went ahead and harvested that. I decided I wasn't going to replant until all of it was done, as I really wanted to sync up the growth to soothe my smooth brain. Next, it was up at the train station to grab our oak resin we had neglected, then it was off to the Feast of the Winter Star, as that had started in town. My Secret Santa ended up being Sam, and he gave me a poppy seed muffin, which is a weird gift, especially just a single one, but I'll take it. And I gave Sebastian a frozen tear. With our new oak resin, we added more kegs to our shed, which is coming together, I would say, and is almost complete. Day 110, we had more oak resin ready for us, so you know what that means. Smelting more ore so we can make more kegs. We also grabbed a bunch of eggs out of the auto grabber to finish up the first part of Gus's omelet quest. It was also Clint's birthday, so I had tracked him down to give him a topaz, and then I dropped off the eggs at the bar for Gus. Since my errands on the mainland were done after that, so I went ahead and headed over to Ginger Island, and it was raining again today, so I managed to find another gym bird. I was also still in denial and was still gathering ginger, because I was holding out some hope that I was going to somehow hit the mother lode to finish this, but so far I'd only collected like 40 with 3 days left to go, so it seemed pretty unlikely. The rest of the day was spent farming the volcano for Monster Hunter goals in the future. On day 111, there was a mini fridge in my mailbox, so that was interesting and pretty space-defying to say the least. Also, I got the dopamine rush of seeing my new biggest batch of wines being done, so we collected those and dropped those off in the shipping bin. We grabbed some speed grow from Pierre's for future greenhouse crops, and seeing as how my weirdly timed starfruit was finally done, I replanted this time using speed grow in every patch, which took pretty much all of the day as I had to hand water as well. I stopped by down at the beach to catch a seaweed that I would need in the future, and then stopped by the bar and saw the abomination that I had helped create. I bought the patrons there who liked them a couple of beers, and then played a tiny bit of the arcade game Prairie King, but it was short-lived, and little did I know how much this game would terrorize me in the future. That night we had a whopping $250,000 roll in from our wine harvest. We have officially reached our final day of year 1 and the final day of this video. I have to say that I think I crushed the goals I set out initially. We completed the community center and reached Ginger Island, we maxed all our skills, and we got this starfruit and kegging operation going, so that's going to be churning cash for us in the future, like we're laundering for the cartel. I really am proud of the progress we made, but we still have a long way to go. Also, this video took an eternity to make and edit, so if you made it this far, I would really appreciate it if you could sub, like, do all those things. They go a huge long way, especially for a new channel like me. But anyways, back to the final day. We went over to Krobus and bought a void egg to incubate, and then it was up to the mountains to finish a fetch quest for Robin, and go ahead and commission the building of a fish pond, hence the seaweed that we had hunted previously. I headed over to Ginger Island because I wasn't really sure what else to do, and it was another rainy day, so we managed to get our 3rd gym bird, leaving us only 1 to go. We kinda just meandered around the island before stumbling back into the volcano to go for more monster hunting goals, and dragon's teeth, as we will need a lot of those in the future, but we will worry about that in the next video, as this is where we end year 1. Thank you for watching, see you guys in the next one, and sweet dreams.